Oops. No bullets.
What is happening, guys? Sherlock Holmes here, as you already know, and I want to talk today about bullets. Did that clip look a little familiar? Have you been in that situation? I get it. I feel bad for you, man. I've been there myself. Arizona ain't no joke. It's hard out there. It's hard, especially when you start off with some real bad guns and some real bad ammo. And I want to talk about one of those things today, the ammo. I want to talk about best ammo. I want to talk about ammo components, ammo types, different calibers, how it all works together, and how you can maximize your shots to make sure that, when you're shooting that bullet, you're actually going to kill something. So it's going to be a fairly lengthy video. Stick around. Feel free to pause. I'm going to throw up some little screenshots of my preferred ammo types and things like that. It's going to be a good time. Let's get into it. So as we see here, we are in our workshop. And I want to go over to the workshop into the ammunition tab. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of different selections and things like that. You got different bullet shapes, round nose, flat nose, smokeless powder, black powder, high quality, low quality powder chart. I mean, all of it. It's just so much. It's so confusing at first, and I get it. And then it comes down to like, how do I even use this stuff? What does it mean? First thing I want to talk about is my personal favorite caliber, the 44. I find this is a really good caliber to have low recoil, but then also have a good bit of damage. It seems to be my sweet spot. We're also going to talk about the 30-99, the 45, the 38, and my personal favorite, the shotguns. Can't forget about those shotguns, can we? So let's talk about that 44 first. Let's take a look here. Now, before we even get started, there's a couple things you're going to want, you're going to need. You're going to have to do the hard part, and that's get into the raid and try and find these machines. That's going to let you craft the ammo later on. So the first thing we need is a bullet press. Bullet press can be found in Fort Berry, Fort Dixon. I found it in the mines, Deadshot Cabin, things like that. Same with the swagging press. That can be found in those same places as well. And we're going to also want a powder measure tool right here. That's going to be in pretty much the same spots. There's a couple other little locations that you might see it pop up in. I think I've seen it in Village a handful of times, and maybe the farm or something like that. Those are the big ones. All right. The next thing we want to do here, quick tip before we head out. If you click in your crafting queue onto a component that you can craft, it is going to pop you right to that next recipe. This can be used with anything other than bullets too, but it's really helpful because this seems to trickle down quite far when you're crafting components. So let's go ahead and click on the casings. For the casings, you see you're going to need metal shears. But you're also going to need brass sheets. Brass sheets can be found in Raid as well, but if you click brass sheets, you notice if you have a small rolling mill, you can go ahead and craft your own brass sheets. All you got to do is farm up some coal and some brass. How do you get brass? You click the brass and you see, okay, I need a tongs, a compact melting pot, some coal, some zinc, and some copper. And round we go. How do we get zinc and copper? You click on that, so on and so forth. Tongs, melting pot, zinc, coal. It's a lot. I get it. But it does get easier. You start to familiarize yourself with what you need and what you're looking for, and then once you got the tools, just make sure you don't run out of that durability and you should be fine. So I'm going to go back up here, and you can use these little quick selections to get back to where you were. I'm going to go to 44. This is my preferred setup for 44 ammo right here. If we click this checkbox for show result, it's going to show us all sorts of statistics and things like that. This is a really good page to keep tabs on because it's going to show you your damage, your bullet speed, if it's got status effects like fracture or bleed, things like that. Right here I have 141 damage per bullet. Keep in mind most characters have around 200 to 230, 240 health on the chest. So if we're talking strictly chest shots here, this bullet type should pretty much two-tap somebody to the chest as long as they're not wearing armor. That's where this penetration class is going to come into effect. So the very first thing I like to look at is how much damage am I doing. In this case, 141. And then the other thing I like to keep tabs on is bullet drop, which is right at the end of this straight line. It's going to drop off or start dropping off at about 100 meters, and then it's going to gradually drop down to a 200-meter drop there. If your target is further than 100 meters, you're going to want to account for that by aiming higher than you think you need to, which makes sense to account for that drop. Now, pro tip here, seen a lot of people complain about how fast their weapons degrade. I take a gun into raid and it's broken before I even finish the raid. That's because of this stat right here, weapon durability impact. Okay, the higher percent that is, the faster your weapon's going to burn down. So let's start talking about the configuration bits and bobs over here. So we're going to keep this result page up over here. And what we want to look at is, first thing first, bullet shape. What is the tip of the bullet, I guess you could say? Shaped legs, right? Round nose is going to be your standard, normal, kind of like ball bullet. Fair bit of damage there, decent bullet drop. Looks like durability impact isn't so bad. Notice it doesn't have fracture or bleed chance. Once we start changing this stuff up, this is all going to change. So looking at flat nose, the thing about flat nose, it's going to do a bit more damage, but it's also going to drop a little bit sooner. I mean, that makes sense. It's not very aerodynamic, things like that. Let's see if it changes anything else. It also changes bullet speed, which is important. So 434 meters per second as opposed to 473. So the round nose is going to travel faster. Yes, that is a factor. I have seen it where I've shot at a target dead center with a perfectly accurate rifle, and I still missed because I didn't shoot far enough ahead of them. I didn't lead my target enough. So bullet speed is a thing. Let's take a look at hollow point here. Notice we get some X's. Basically, this means you can't have these two things together. So I can't have a full metal jacket bullet with a hollow point. It's got to be either jacketed or naked, which we'll talk about in a second. But I'm going to switch it to naked for now just so we can take a look at hollow point. It does less damage, does travel slower, it does have a lot more drop off. But here's the thing about hollow points, right? We all know bullets and guns and things like that. That's why we're playing this game. The status effects, bleeding chance turns to normal. Fracture chance turns to high, so you have a chance of bleeding or fracturing your target with each shot, which is pretty nice. Notice the durability impact does change as well too. There's also a stun chance. Stun is going to be like a knockdown, essentially. Shotguns typically have a good stun chance for a lot of their ammo types. Let's take a look at bullet material next. So you have lead and lead tin. I don't mess around with lead. It seems just more worth it to go right to the lead tin. It's just a little bit extra farming. You pretty much have only positives across the board. So basically you got more damage out of lead tin. You have less durability impact with lead tin. Less spread adjustment with lead tin. That's going to be, the bloom. How off target is your shot going to be? For example, this 45 rifle down here, this is going to be your spread adjustment. If I load in some ammo, you notice that spread adjustment changes because of the ammo type there. If I had better ammo, that spread would be tighter. If I had worse ammo, that spread would be greater. So that's spread adjustment. Let's take a look at powder. So I'm going to switch this back to lead tin and talk about powder. If you've noticed, and I've heard a couple complaints about this on the Discord, that when you shoot, you basically smoke yourself out. You can't see anything. It's true, and it's a little bit rough. That's because of the low quality powder. So we're using black powder for those. Black powder isn't as clean, it doesn't burn as nice. Smokeless is going to give you higher status ailment chances, usually higher damage, less durability impact, as you can see here. It's just all around a better choice. You're going to need smokeless powder for that. Not necessarily this number 5, but some sort of thing tagged as smokeless. Notice these are all black powder. Next thing we'll talk about is lube. Lube only comes into play when we're talking about a naked round. When I switch it to jacketed, you notice you get those X's again. You can't lube up a jacketed round, nor can you lube up a full metal jacket round. So we'll leave it naked for now. And it pretty much tracks how you would expect. Tallow is a little bit worse, and then this wax right here is a little bit better quality. It's just going to give you better stats overall. Cool. So let's switch it on over to a different bullet type. Again, hollow point cannot be jacketed, so we're going to switch that back to round nose for the sake of conversation. And we're going to talk about jacketed. Oh, got to get rid of my wax here. Notice the damage changes once more. Durability impact goes down to 162, which is not bad. Switching that to full metal jacket here. Less weapon durability impact, more damage, so on and so forth. The casing, what is the ammo cased in? This aluminum right here, or is it brass? Again, typically tracks that the further down on the list here, the better the component is. So brass case is going to be your go-to for that. Powder charge. This is a pretty important one. So when we're talking about this powder type, right, I have smokeless powder, and I want to know how much of that powder I'm using. Notice my damage here and the weapon durability impact. Those are the two big things with powder charge. I have low charge. I'm going to switch it to high real quick. Whoa, that damage swoops way up, the speed way up, and the durability impact way up. So as you can see here, the more powder you pack into that beast, the harder it's going to hit, the faster it's going to travel, but it's also going to hurt your weapon a bit more. I like to use low charge myself, and this is really where personal preference is going to come into play. You know, do you want, at the sacrifice of your weapon's durability, to do more damage per shot, or do you want to do a little bit less damage to make that weapon last longer? You're going to have to feel that one out yourself. There are instances where I will do high charge, like with 3099 Spitzer ammo. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'll leave that at low charge for now. Let's talk about powder quality. You got 3 different quality types. That pretty much tracks as you would expect. You got less damage, more durability impact with low quality than high quality, a little bit less drop too. So that is basically the configuration metrics that we have available to us at this point. Good stuff. It's a lot. So let's talk about 45 ammo. So I've been playing around with 45. I've been kind of tweaking and seeing what I like here. I was doing round nose for a while, but I think flat nose is actually the way to go for me. I do like the waxed configuration on this one. You could also do the full metal jacket here. It does burn down the weapon a little bit more. 201 damage though, that's a lot for one shot. So I usually hop back and forth between those two ammo types. It's really at whatever I'm feeling in that moment. All of this configuration stuff is going to be the same. You just notice the crafting requirements change a little bit. So you need a little bit more bullets, things like that, more powder, you need a hand file, so on and so forth. Let's pause and hop back to 38. This is a caliber that I don't really like myself. I don't think it does enough damage when I'm PvPing. It is really good for PvE, and there are people that swear by it for PvP as well. Basically, this is considered, I guess, the go-to mines caliber. If you have a scoped rifle with 38, you're clicking heads in the mines. And the reason is because of the recoil. As we know, if you click a head, it's a kill. Period. It doesn't matter if it's a juiced character, a brand new character, an AI, a headshot will absolutely one-tap every time. Here's the thing. With a 38 versus this 45 right here, if I could double-click this 45, recoil is 220 horizontal and 880 for vertical. I think I have a 38 here somewhere. Here's 38. Compare that to the 135 horizontal and the 540 vertical for a 38. This is a quiet 38, so it's a little skewed. But as you can see here, you get way less recoil with 38. That's why people in the mines like to take it. They like to click those heads real quick, move on to the next target, and keep on moving. I just don't like it for PvP myself because it doesn't do quite enough damage for me. But again, my setup is this one, pretty much the same. Let's hop on over to 3099, the big boy. You ever hear that gun in raid that just sounds like somebody woke up and chose violence? Yeah, that's a bolt action 3099. It sounds like this. I don't know, that was a really bad impression, but you get the idea. This is my preferred ammo setup for 3099. We see a new thing here under bullet shape. You got the flat nose, the round nose, the hollow point, all that good stuff. You get Spitzer. In order to make Spitzer, you need sandpaper and you need Spitzer bullet molding tool. The bullet molding tool you can find in those places that I mentioned before. Sandpaper is pretty much found everywhere. You can pick that up from everything with a little bit of luck. It does change to a long brass casing. You do need brass sheets to make the actual bullet itself. Other than that, everything looks pretty good. So the reason I like this is because 229 damage should one tap to the chest most players. Okay, it does burn the weapon down quite a bit. 319% is high for my liking. But keep in mind with that bolt action, because the reload is slower and it's hitting harder, you shouldn't need to take as many shots as like a revolver where you're just whiffing shots left and right, if you're me, right? So I like the FMJ here. I like the brass case. High charge on this one to get the most damage possible, and then high quality powder as well. Again, with the smokeless, the lead tin, that's my preferred setup. One thing to note is that a Spitzer bullet shape cannot be naked. It has to be either jacketed or full metal jacket, so you'll need to take that into consideration as well. Beautiful. 60 load, I'm not going to really talk about that. That's your muskets. I don't think it's worth spending time talking about. Let's talk about the shotgun. I am, for one, am really sad that there are no 12 gauge or 20 gauge shotguns in this game. We only get the 16 gauge for now. I'm hoping they add something more in the future. That would be awesome. I have a couple different theories on shotguns. Now, keep in mind that recruit that you're frustrated with, that would cost you $0, that you spawned in and you took a shotgun to some guy's face and he didn't die after 5 shots, that's because you were using some pretty terrible ammo, okay? I like to run slugs or bolo rounds myself, but you got some options here. You got buck number 0, you got buck number 1, buck number 4, bolos and slugs. You got wadding types, fiber or felt. There are some people that swear by fiber. I go by felt. I don't really know what the difference is. Truthfully, it doesn't seem to change anything on this end, so I just go with felt. That's just me. Again, you got your powder quality, your casing, paper or brass. Paper is going to be a little bit less speed, more weapon durability, impact damage, things like that. Less penetration class. I go with brass. I like low powder charge, and this is purely because I do a pocket shotgun double barrel in my pistol holster, and I feel like 174 damage per shotgun slug with about a 75 meter drop is a-okay. If I can get both those shotgun rounds into a body, that's probably a dead player. You can bump this up to high. I see a lot of people running the long barrel shotties with a scope. This is going to do 176 damage per round, and then it's actually a fairly good bit of drop considering it's a shotgun. Let's talk about bolo for a second. This one is one of my favorite rounds. Oh god, is this thing fun. So what you see here, bolo is kind of weird. It's 2 big like ball pellets. Basically you get 2 bullets or 2 pellets that do 57 damage each, so math says that's what, 114. Does do a fair bit of durability impact at high powder charge, but look at this, very high bleed chance. You ever get bled in a raid, you know how terrifying that can be. I think these are just a ton of fun. Sometimes I like to stick a bolo in one side of a double barrel and then a slug in the other and go that way. Purely personal preference. I think bolo is a ton of fun. Take a quick second here to talk about some of the other buckshot. We have 12x18, so you get 12 pellets that do 18 damage each on the number 4. The number 1 has 9 pellets doing 20 damage each, and the 0 buck has 6 pellets that do 26 damage each. Again, personal preference, how do you want to run it? You get different bullet drops with each of them, so take that into account. If you've looked at some of the lower quality shotgun shells, like we see here, you notice the bullet drop is like 50 meters, probably not even, and it's doing a 9x16, so you got 9 pellets doing 16 damage each. This is the reason you're not killing things with those starter shotguns with the starter ammo, because honestly, you have to pretty much barrel stuff them, and it's not doing that much damage anyways. Compare that to the crafted number 4, you're doing 12 pellets, 18 damage each, but you get a whole lot more range out of it. Bolos, even more range. You got 2 pellets doing more damage, so on and so forth, and of course we have the big boy slugs doing about the most work out of the shotgun realm. Cool, cool? Alright, let's talk about arrows. I know there's a lot of people out there that hate how the bow works. I get it. I'm probably going to throw up a YouTube video on the bow, just strictly bow stuff, so this might be a little redundant here. That's why I wanted to put it at the end. But basically, I love the bow. The bow is so much fun for me to use. It doesn't have a whole lot of range, but basically treat it like a faster shooting shotgun, and you're in good shape. I like to run this. Let's talk about the shaft materials. You got cedar or oak. The further down you go, the more damage, the more spread adjustment, things like that. Notice oak is heavier than cedar, so it's going to travel less distance before fall off, something to keep in mind. Turkey feather is better than goose feather. Goose feather is not quite as high quality. Both can be bought from your merchant or found in raid, pretty no problem. You have field points or broadheads. The only thing that's really going to affect is the damage and then the status ailments over here. As you see, broadheads are very high bleed chance and then a high fracture chance with no stun chance. Field points are going to be a high bleed, a normal fracture, and again, no stun chance. I like to go with a thick shaft myself, ayo, and that's because it seems to have a little bit more damage. Just keep in mind that it does fall off a little bit faster. Here's the big one. I like obsidian. Now, up until this point, we've noticed that as far as quality goes, the lower quality stuff seems to be at the top of the list, the higher quality stuff seems to be at the bottom of the list. That's not the case with the head material, in my opinion. Flint is obviously the worst. You got 100 damage here. It's spread adjustment 113. It falls off at about 50 meters. Obsidian, gives you that very high bleed chance, bumps up the damage to 140, but then when we switch it to steel, it just goes down in damage, which I find very strange. So I like the obsidian. And this is my preferred ammo type for bows. You got oak, turkey, broadhead, thick obsidian arrows, and you are smacking people right in the chest. I would absolutely aim for the chest with arrows. That's my personal take on it. It's very hard to click heads with this stuff. That's going to be pretty much it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below. I'm pretty responsive on the old YouTube for now, so that's good for you and kind of good for me as well. I'm going to be doing some more videos with some more stuff. If I missed anything, let me know. And as always, I'll eat your boots.